folks. I know it's been a long time since I've done a video, but originally I wasn't going to film this video, but it's gotten too difficult and it's taken over 2 days now, where I thought, hey, this might be good for somebody else to know as well. So I'll take you through my experience here and of changing this heater core in this 1999 Lincoln Town Car. I think this particular body style and interior style goes until 2003. This is my dad's car, and his heater core is leaking. He was getting steam blowing through the vents on the inside of the car, as well as actual coolant was coming through the vents and fogging up the windows. So I'll take you through this whole thing. Some of the stuff I've already done, and I'll cover removal while I'm doing the reinstallation, like this hood cowl panel over here that got removed, the lines for the heater core, and a couple other things. But so far what I've done is remove the dash, and I'll cover this as well when I put the dash back in the removal process, as well as bolt sizes, because some things are a little tricky. There are a couple of odd size bolts in this thing. Yeah, beyond that, I've gotten the dash out, and a couple of other things, like that piece of the hood cowl over there has been removed. I removed both plugs over here for the computer. Those are all removed. And heater core lines have been pulled out already as well. So I'll be back here in just a bit. I'm going to remove this washer fluid bottle so I can remove the fan, as well as some of the fan holes, some of the blower assembly on the inside of the car to the firewall. So all that does have to come off as well. I'll remove this. It's just one 10mm or 8mm bolt right there, and it clips into the fender liner. Alright, as you guys can see, I removed the entire reservoir. Line for it's right here. Just disconnected it, drained it into a bottle. Same with the two electrical connectors over here. And now we're going to go ahead and remove all the electrical connectors for the fan. Those are going to have to come off, as well as the electrical connector for the AC pressure switch. I think there's something back here too that needs to be pulled out. I'll let you guys know once I find that. But yeah, this entire electrical harness will be pulled back into the car, since it doesn't have any connectors on the interior side of the car. Only way to pull this entire harness through would be going the other way, pretty much. So I'll go ahead and get electrical connectors off and start unbolting the fan. I'm replacing the fan as well as the heater core today. And so some of the bolts that go through be like right here. There's one right down there. I'll explain this up here too, because you're probably wondering about that. But yeah, there's a couple bolts that actually hold the heater box assembly to the firewall from the outside of the car, as well as there's a couple on the inside I'll have to show you when I'm doing reassembly. I'll explain when to remove those guys. But I'll be back in a little bit here. I'm going to go disconnect all of that stuff and get those bolts removed so I can start pulling the heater box out, as well as moving the dash a little bit more further away so I can get access to the heater box. I'm back. It's been a couple hours. So here's what I've done so far. So I got this whole wiring harness undone. So that's all free. I had to use this pry bar. There was a plastic Christmas tree clip down there that was holding this wiring harness to the firewall. So I removed that, and I was able to pull the entire dash off. So this just pulled right through the firewall. But as you can see, I removed the evaporator. I think this is like a fresh air sense or something like that. The antenna is unplugged. This bulkhead was unplugged as well. That's the bulkhead that goes over there. All the grounds were removed down here. That's where the antenna plugs up. There is a big connector going to that sensor over there. You know, by the way, you also want to make sure you disconnect your battery as well. So, you know, before doing all this, definitely disconnect your battery. You know, definitely could set off your airbags if you do something wrong. But beyond that, remove some mouse nest. This car hasn't been driven all winter, so it's finally warm enough to do this work on it. Disconnect these. Didn't need to disconnect these two from that vacuum valve, but they're color coded red, and there's a yellow marking on that one as well, so pretty easy to hook those back up. Had to disconnect that from the actual electronic heater controls, but everything else is pretty much still plugged up. And there wasn't really too much I had to actually unplug. On the driver's side, you need to disconnect that huge bulkhead connector, as well as a bunch of other plugs down by the wall, and I'll show you those here in just a bit. So here what's going on the driver's side of the vehicle. I disconnected that bulkhead and pushed the little locking tabs so that it can go through the firewall. I didn't have to disconnect the other blue connector there, the inside of it's blue. That's actually the ECU for the vehicle. That didn't have to be disconnected, but I ended up disconnecting it anyway because it gave me a little bit more room to get to that one, so you might want to think about that. I also removed the cruise control. I just set it down here. I unplugged the cable from it, or the connector from it, and just unbolted the two little nuts right there and set that over there. Those were like 10 millimeters. So that was what's done underneath the hood here so far. I also went ahead and removed the windshield wiper arms. You have to remove this entire cowl covering, as well as there's going to be a tray underneath it that has to be removed as well, and that will allow you to get to the last two bolts that holds the heater box to the firewall. Onto the inside connections. Obviously, we dropped the steering wheel, the whole steering column, down to the ground. I'll go through where all the bolts and everything for that are located when I'm putting it back together. Here's the giant bulkhead connector that pushes through the firewall. ECU's over there. Pretty much all of this was, you know, everything here was disconnected. These guys here came from over there by the parking brake. There's also a couple of grounds as well. There's also this here, this hose. It feeds to the parking brake because this is all powered by vacuum from the engine. So that was all disconnected from the steering column. You didn't really need to, and ended up doing it. Then I found out I didn't need to do that. But you do need to do this vacuum feed line here that wraps underneath the steering column connects to this here, and that goes through the firewall and is held in place. So you definitely want to disconnect that, as well as this black line here is vacuum that's coming in for the HVAC to run all that stuff. So that's that black one. That doesn't have to be disconnected at this time. Just put it down at the bottom. There's these connectors here. This goes all to the steering column, ignition switch, and everything like that. That's what controls that. I had to disconnect that so that I can pull the dash back this way. Other than that, nothing else really underneath the dash is disconnected. Everything is pretty much the same as it was, from when I got here, pretty much. Looks like they replaced a parking brake switch, brake pedal switch at one point here. But yeah, this car's pretty much factory. I'll go through all the other bolt locations and everything else like that when I'm putting it back together. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting the windshield cowl out now, so that I can remove that lower drainage tray so that we can get to the last few bolts for the heater box. And I'll be back here with a little progress update as I go along. Alright, I'll be back in just a bit. So, went ahead and got that plastic cowl off. It's sitting over there. I'll show you the trick to that in just a second. But for the most part, it's just held on with these clips, and it just clips the two pieces together. This is some sort of plastic. But yeah, there's clips that go into the windshield there. Broke one over there. And then over here, there's a screw that goes through there, a plastic screw. But uses a good time to clean out all the crap down there. Grease your linkages up for your windshield, or replace them if they're really loose and weird. But yeah, here's the cowl and the little hose that goes to the windshield washer bottle. So that all comes out in one big piece actually. But hiding here right underneath the hinge is a plastic screw. You gotta use a really tiny screwdriver to get that out. But yeah, make sure you remove that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I think I have to pull the transmission out now for the windshield wipers and all the linkages and all the other crap. And I think it all comes out in one giant assembly. I'll let you guys know how that goes in just a sec. So, I got the entire pan out. Brought it outside because it's dirty. But pretty much your windshield linkages and transmission is there's a nut here, a bolt here, a stud that comes up, or no, nut here, and then a bolt that goes through there. This has a bolt that goes through that holds this plastic piece to the firewall of the car. So one bolt there, and then one bolt here, and the entire thing just lifts right off. I'll show you the windshield transmission as well, and the linkage. So here's this. I had just one little Christmas tree, and this was pushed through the plastic thing, and boom, that just lifted right off. So it wasn't a huge deal. Here's what the car looks like after that's out of there. And there are the bolts that we need to get to that are still holding that heater box in. So there's one there, one up top there. There might be a few more as well too. I'll have to see what happens when I get into this. There's the vacuum reservoir that holds engine vacuum for the HVAC and other things controlled by vacuum in this car, like the parking brake and stuff like that. But yeah, I will see what I can do about removing that heater box now, and I'll get back to you guys in just a sec. So left off with I removed that there, I guess call it grip tray or whatever you want to call it. I don't really know what it's supposed to be called. But yeah, anyway, turn my attention back to over here. So I removed the nut that was up there, as well as the nut on that stud sticking out through the firewall there. Go around here, get you a better view of it. So there's a 11mm nut on the end of this. After I remove that, the entire heater box in the car is shaking now, which is plus. So there's still a bit more to go. I removed nut there, as well as you gotta pull the 8mm nut bolt that's going through your wheel liner there. Pull the wheel liner back, and there's a 10mm nut or a bolt that goes right right there, bottom of the blower housing. I think there's a couple more too that need to be pulled out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my fan out because that needs to be replaced, and then I'll be back in a bit. We got to remove this whole housing on the evaporator core here as well, and I think after that we should be home free, able to pull that inner heater box out. What? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Back in just a bit. Folks, I'm back. I freed it from its home. So, I'll go over a bit about how I did this, because it was pretty damn tricky. And even the service manuals that I looked at didn't even mention that this bolt here, which has another nut behind it. Let me grab a light. So there's another nut behind it against the firewall there, and then there's a nut on top of here as well. So it's two nuts on top of here. And what I did was I just took a breaker bar, pried it back a little bit, and pushed it down till I can get it out. I pulled the box from the inside of the car out from the firewall so that the nut would stay flat, and then I unscrewed it the rest of the way. I did it all by hand. The nut was super duper loose. But yeah, that's all out. The other thing I ran into was this right here, which does your floor vents. It sits over here. It does your floor vents and the rear heat and AC, actually. But yeah, it sits over here, and the entire heater box sits on top of that. And if that doesn't come out, the factory service manual says you need to remove the seats and remove this duct first to get this out. I just bent the crap out of it, and I wiggled and wiggled and wiggled. I bent it out that way and literally just pushed it right through with the heater box still there. After this was out, the box literally just fell off the firewall. So that's what was holding it up. No, or at least one of my main things holding it up. I did end up cutting my carpet, or my dad's carpet I should say, back a bit, but this is the part of the carpet that is underneath the dash. So it's not a huge deal. I don't think it's going to be very visible. You know, obviously my dad doesn't really care. He just wants heat in his car again, and for it to stop smoking when the coolant drips out of the evap channels and right onto the catalytic converter. This thing was smoking like crazy. But yeah, that's his main concern. So I don't really think he's gonna care about the carpet will cut. If you see the condition of this car, you know exactly why. It's just a winter beater. But other than that, that's out of there. I did remove my fan. The blower fan the motor was being a little stubborn, so that's being replaced as well. But other than that, the entire box is out. I'm gonna go disassemble it, wash it because it's full of coolant, and then reassemble it with my new core, and probably start putting this back together. I did find that the door here that controls the fresh air is broken, so this is totally gone. The actuator is fine, for what I can see. It's just that the actual door is the plastic around it's broke. So I'm gonna see what I can do about maybe finding another one of those locally here at a auto parts store. If it's cheap, go pick that up and put it in. Otherwise, hey folks, I'm back. So this is continued from yesterday. So this has been a 3-day project so far. Hopefully this makes it easier for when you tackle it yourself. But I washed out the heater box last night, and I just set it to dry. That's mainly why this is going on to day 3. Otherwise, if I just dried it out with either like some compressed air from my compressor, or you know, taking a towel or a paper towel and dried it out, you know, it would have been fine. But I was being a little lazy and I was hungry, so I called it quits for the day. Anyway, so I didn't go over how to remove the core from the actual heater box, but yeah, it is just a couple of screws. You do have to remove this actuator. It sits over here like so. But yeah, one of the screws for this goes through into the cover, so this does have to come off first. Then you'll be able to pull the screws for this guy. It's 6 screws, there's one up there too, and this pops right off. And then the actual core, mine was leaking pretty badly, but this just picks right up. I had to rip this, But yeah, this picks right up. The new one just dropped right back in. My new core was a Spectra Premium core. It did come with the foam padding all the way around it. One of the reasons why I did let this dry off overnight was because I did use a garden hose, and I hosed the entire thing down. And as you can see, there's foam on one of these flaps in here, as well as the blend flap in here. That's back there. I think I can get a good picture of it. Let's see. There you go. You can see some of the foam on that side where it seals against the heat chamber, but on the other side it's covered in foam, and those were actually totally covered and soaked in coolant, so that's why I used the garden hose and just washed the entire thing out, just because it was pretty nasty, and I didn't want to leave that coolant on the foam and then it ends up making the car stink like coolant on the inside once it starts getting hot and has that weird sweet smell. So I didn't want the entire car smelling like that after it gets warm and starts passing air by that foam, and it picks up that smell. So that's the main reason I did that. But yeah, otherwise I'm going to just finish putting this back together. Just, like I said, a couple of screws, and we're pretty much home free. Then I'll go through with you guys on how to get everything back into the car as well. And I'll give you a finished picture of this. I did have to take off this actuator here as well too that controls the fresh air blend. You can see yours probably look a little bit different, but this is broken. And I checked, and there's no way of actually getting just a new door. So yeah, the only way I found it was going to be through Ford, and it's an entire heater box assembly, sans the actuators and the heater core and those little bits and pieces. But it's a entire heater box assembly to have to purchase, or I'd have to go to the junkyard and rip the dash out of one of those and steal me a heater box. If my father does end up wanting that capability to change between fresh air and recirculated air, I may end up doing that. But like I said, this is a winter beater, and I'm probably just gonna have it stay with fresh air coming in because it got pretty toasty in this car regardless, and just leave it at that. And if there's complaints, I'll just at that time go and pull an entire heater box and hope that this hasn't broken off. This has like a 1/2-inch stub that sticks out of here. But yeah, mine was all crumbled, and it was plastic. It's just a standard plastic, like this stuff here that's used extra hard plastic. But yeah, it crumbled up over, the actuator moving it over the years. So, but yeah, I'll put this together, and I'll be back in just a bit. Folks, I'm back, and so I'm putting it back together right now. I got my blower motor back in, so that's all set to go, and I got my heater box back into the car. That's there. I'm about to go ahead and position that back in. And yeah, a couple quick tips is you have this one here that goes all the way up there through that dot of light that you see in the firewall. Yeah, get some light on there. So that hole right there, heater tubes go through there. You can do your blower motor resistor as well right now if you needed to. And then that far peg right here goes through this hole right there on the firewall. And if you look back earlier into the video, you can see where I showed you on the other side of the firewall where that's coming out. Kind of on the top center of the motor on the driver's side would be the easiest way to get to it. It's 11mm bolt. And then you have those two pegs down there that take a 10 or 11mm nut, if I remember correctly. But yeah, other than that, just gonna be putting this entire thing back together, pull the wires back through the firewall and stuff like that. So I'll be back in just a bit with the next part of this video. Alright folks, I'm back. This is like day 3, 4, I don't remember really. It's all kind of run together. I got the dash back into the car. Unfortunately I lost some bits of my video. it got corrupted in the card, and yeah. So, but here's where I'm at right now. About to put back in this windshield drainage tray, if you will. I cleaned it out pretty good, and there was a ton of leaves and crap down there. Made sure that drain over there was all clean as well. Here's what I did do. I did reconnect all of the wiring over here. So those are connected except for the windshield washer bottle, AC compressor, the pressure sensors reconnected, hoses are reconnected. I did make sure I got my hose clamps back as close as possible to the original indentations that were on the hose. I still have to do the blower motor resistor connection, but yeah, other than that, everything's back in. I did replace my blower motor here. I was going to explain to you guys what this gasket maker is about here, and pretty much these cars sometimes leak water into them. There was a foam gasket in here when I originally took this all out, but it's been pretty degraded and it was pretty much nothing. So I used just normal gasket maker. I'm going to rip that off and reapply a fresh coat of gasket maker here too. So I think I have some gray. So that's what I'm going to do there. But yeah, if you don't have the gasket, you can buy it from Ford. It's not available like at AutoZone or anything like that, or I haven't found it yet at least. But yeah, you can just, it's a plastic piece that goes there. I'll show you guys later. Just throw some gasket maker in the bottom pretty heavily. It's a pretty big gap. It's plastic. But yeah, seal it up good, and it'll make sure water doesn't get into your car and leak all over your passenger side footwell. Got those back in. I think I covered that already. Other than that, everything's pretty much about the same. I got the bulkhead connectors in again. Both the engine computer and the body wiring is done. I put the cruise control actuator back in place. That's plugged back up as well. Onto the inside. So the dashboard's back in place. I'll show you what we have to do here. So that's the brace. It's 13 millimeter bolts. There's 2 up there. There's 2 down there. So that's one of the points. As well as 15 here, and then through here, up in that corner. Let's see if I can get my camera in there. Right there, that gold nut. It holds the dashboard up over here. But beyond that, you do have all the wiring right here. Those were unplugged from over there. Those plugs, and they all have little locking clips and stuff on them. So you want to make sure you get all those back, where they need to be. Along with that, there's the grounds. Those go down there. Guess you only need these removed. I didn't have to remove this one, but I didn't know that at the time I was taking this all apart. We also got the gear select here that has to be put back. So I'll be doing that in a little bit. There's one of the nuts that holds the steering column up. There's another. And the other 2 there. And it's kind of behind this wiring harness here. Whoops, there we go. Right there. No. Damn it. Well, let's dig around in this wiring harness over here. You guys will find it. Let's see. There we go. Right there. So that's that bolt. I didn't have to undo the steering shaft or anything like that. You do have to disconnect this vacuum line. Just pull one of the ends off. It doesn't matter which end. And undo all of the wiring clips over here as well too. So there was like 4 or 5 of them. They're all unique, and can't really mix them up. So make sure you undo those. Sorry about the shaky camera. Oh, and I had to loosen the fuse box here because it's attached to this, and there's also a bunch of wires here. And it just made it a lot easier to maneuver all this stuff around. And it's just 2 bolts on the bracket. It fits up there pretty easily. Over to the other side. So this piece here goes underneath the kick panel, and then there's this brace. It goes underneath the steering wheel as well, and that goes on before that goes on, so make sure you don't forget that. And there's this piece that goes underneath there. Not really concerned about clipping that up yet. We got the 3 grounds here that were replaced. The first connector here is the one that has to come off. This little clip pushes down. Then you can pull this connector out. And the antenna wiring, I have it tucked back in, and it's Christmas tree here, but this, you pull that out and it unplugs. And then this right here is the wiring harness that goes out to run the blower motor and the resistor and all the other cool stuff. So this, I just pushed this back in through and got the grommet seated in there, and that I made sure it pulled through on the other side. You also have this hose. I'm not too sure what it does, but yeah, I plugged that back up. And here's the carpet that I cut. You can see right here, but it's not very noticeable. But the vacuum connections, those were put back together. That just goes underneath there. That actually works out pretty nicely. And this right here plugs up to the plastic piece. There's a cigarette lighter, power point, whatever you want to call it, there. And then the light here twists into the back. So that's that there. But yeah, there's nothing else that was disconnected. I did get string for my shock, the air shock that's in there, so that this opens all nice. So that wasn't hooked up previously, so got that reconnected. Haven't powered the car back up yet, so gotta go and do those connections over there, and then I'll power the car back up, as well as reinstall the dash trim up there. I'll let you guys know all about that as well. Oh, almost forgot. The stud for moving the dash on this side's here, as well as there's 3 of these guys all the way across. They're tiny. They're like 3/16 or something like that. I'll be back in a little bit for some more info.